A lot of the time, people talk about gaming trends that bug the hell out of them. Not today. These are good ones. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, 8 new gaming trends that are actually awesome. Starting off with number 8. The fact that you cannot tell the difference between cutscenes and gameplay in most modern games. Now, this is partly because graphics have just become so good that games look a lot like a cutscene, but the way that these seamless transitions happen is we've moved into an era where all video game assets are loaded off of solid-state drives. On the PlayStation 5 and on the Xbox Series X, we have a totally different situation in terms of loading. PlayStation 5, of course, having the advantage there. That's also been something that's been creeping into PC gaming, where it's easy to picture the norm being solid-state drives on everything. Like, of course, it's a big thing that the graphics are a lot better, but all of that stuff can be loaded at any given time instantaneously. You can have the high-resolution models for the cutscene, dump that stuff, move into more system-intensive, like physics models, these types of things, quickly and without any real cost to the machine. Obviously, it doesn't take a lot to go from FMV to polygons, but now that there's things like Nanite out there where extremely high polygon count models can be rendered with much less system intense resources, being able to load those things quickly is a big element here as well. It's a really exciting time, actually, because this is a trend that kind of happens because everything is just awesome. There's like a confluence of different technologies coming together to create the perfect situation. At number 7 is New Game Plus making a comeback. Like, okay, New Game Plus is an old school game thing where really difficult games gave you a different kind of challenge by letting you restart the game with everything you had at the end after you beat it. Now, sometimes New Game Plus meant some different content, something changes, sometimes the difficulty level would be higher, but generally it meant you got to keep your stuff, which is badass. If you've ever spent a really long time gaining stuff in a video game, like an incredible loadout, an inventory just full of the best weapons, tons of accessories, items, it kind of feels bad to stop playing the game by beating it, because a lot of that does go to waste. The thing is that New Game Plus went away for a while, and I don't really understand that. It's just such a fun way to increase replay value, and in certain games, like you kind of call the Nier series a game that New Game Pluses its way through the story. It may be partially responsible for bringing back the popularity of this. I mean, Nier Automata certainly wasn't the first that toyed with this concept, but it did remind us that it was there, and there were a growing number of games that were including it anyways. At number 6 is crossplay. Now, this is something we all wanted since forever. Way back in the day, before multiplayer was even really a thing that took off, when we played Doom on MS-DOS and connected to a LAN party, we would have never imagined the idea that people across different consoles would ever do anything like this. This is such an astounding bit of technology if you think about it, because you need to create some way to mediate a bunch of different versions of a game and behave as though everybody's playing the same thing. Of course, it's not like that impressive anymore. Everybody's running x86 architecture. Everybody's got AMD chips. Everybody's using Unreal Engine. So, like, to some extent, it's kind of a no-brainer that it happens. But considering how different every machine was 30 years ago from each other, thinking about exactly what had to be overcome for this to actually be a thing, it's kind of amazing. I mean, I don't really play Fortnite, but I could pick up a Nintendo Switch and play Fortnite against my friend on the computer. We would both die and somebody else would win, but it's possible, and that's amazing. At number 5, cloud save and cross-account progression. So let's say you're playing a really big game, a huge multiplayer game where tons and tons of different people are playing. While you might have to buy the game on another platform, it's absolutely phenomenal you have an account to that game that you can move everything over to that other platform should you want to. For instance, with Destiny 2, if for some reason you've been playing it on Google Stadia and you come to your senses advances, you can port all of that progress to any other actually functioning version of the game you want to play. But it's not just that. Like, just the ability to cloud save at all is amazing. Let's say you jump from PS4 to PS5 and you port your game library. All that stuff is not stuff you have to figure out some way to move between two machines, but you just have to log into your PSN account, and in some cases, not just download the saves, but just download the games. They're there. Now, this has a lot of unsavory implications in terms of ownership. Like, I don't like the idea they could just shut a game off for you forever. I'm looking at you, PT, and Scott Pilgrim versus the World game, although fortunately one of those has made its way back to us. It has its downsides, but you cannot argue the upsides. I love just having access to my saves anywhere. I love just having access to my games anywhere. At number 4, more and more accessibility options becoming common, and I know that probably doesn't seem like a big deal to somebody like myself who doesn't need a colorblind mode or a hearing impaired mode or anything like that, but when I was little, I came from the perspective that more people enjoying video games is always a good thing, and it really sucks when people, because of some aspect that they have no control over, are not able to participate in such an awesome hobby. I like to think that video games have enriched my life very significantly. Like, there's been numerous studies that have shown that it helps with neurocognitive development. We've covered them on this channel. I think that growing up with that stuff, even at a time when we were being told, oh, this is bad for your brain, I think it was still good for me. I think maybe sometimes I play it a little bit too much, but it all equals out in the end. I think more people should be able to experience that. I think more people should be able to boot up Super Mario Odyssey and actually hear it, you know, or see it in a way that is actually visually distinct for them, given the fact that their vision only displays, like, let's say, yellow and green. I think it's fantastic that more accessibility options have been made useful to people, especially, like, you've seen all these amazing controllers be made for people who have specific physical disabilities, and I love the idea that those people are able to play games. That's good stuff. And number 3 is photo mode. Now, this might not sound like a big deal to certain PC gamers, because photo mode has existed in a lot of games for a long time on that platform, but man, that has become a mainstream feature, and I love it. First of all, we are living in an era, like I said, when we were talking about the transition between cutscenes and gameplay, where games look better than they ever have. And knowing that more likely than not, the game has the ability to stop and smell the roses, so to speak, really get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on, detailing textures, detailing models, or just creating great vistas with sunsets and weather. And I mean, have you ever used photo mode in Ghost of Tsushima? It is, without a doubt, one of the most glorious sights. And I'm talking the PS4 version. It's amazing looking. Like, you see a lot of big Sony games, in fact, feature this, and it really does well, but you even see it down in, like, indie games like Chernobylite. At number 2 are streaming options for games. Even if you detected a little bit earlier when I dunked on Google Stadia, we're not super crazy about streaming. When it works, it's actually a really good feature. And I like the idea that you have ways to access your games from different places via different services, some better than others. Again, not a big Stadia fan. It's just great. Like, I've seen the streaming version of Assassin's Creed Odyssey working on Switch. I haven't actually been able to play it because I don't live in Japan, but it's actually incredible. The people don't hate it. It works. And people enjoy a big, epic game that far outweighs the possibilities of the Nintendo Switch platform's actual hardware, but enjoy the portability of it for playing a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is a big, expansive, very cool game. It is hard to argue against that. I think in a few years, it's probably something that we might be talking more about. We're not quite there yet, but it's a cool technology that it is nice to see continually rising in profile. And finally, at number 1 is exploration mode, a mode that is becoming more and more common in various open world games, where you don't just get all of the waypoints right off, you actually have to figure out where you're going. It's certainly reminiscent of older games, except for game worlds were never as expansive as they are now. Hell, we could even bring up the history learning mode from Assassin's Creed, where you actually have a guided tour around the environments, which are, as you know, based in real areas, like in Assassin's Creed Origins doing history learning mode lets you see a ton of incredible things in ancient Egypt and actually get information about it as we know it in real life, not mystical. These kinds of modes add a different way to experience these massive worlds that were created in ways that don't restrict you to simply annihilating your own way through them. It's pretty great. But that's all for today. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on GameRanks.